Your side that made this a campaign promise. So to now say that we are playing political games when we know that he actually ran on this is a farce. That's number one. Number two, everyone on this committee and everyone in Congress should have an issue with the fact that right now we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been transferred out of her housing in Florida down to somewhere that looks probably a little bit more like Mar-a-Lago in Texas, but now there are conversations about pardoning her. So I think that the American people should...
This may look like another heated exchange between political rivals, but it's actually a test of institutional honesty and whether promises made to the public will ever be honored. What's really being tested here is credibility. When elected leaders campaign on exposing the truth, do they follow through once they hold power? This moment forces Congress to confront whether transparency is a political prop or a genuine commitment. It raises broader questions about how power shields itself, who benefits when information stays hidden, and whether accountability only matters when it targets the other side. In this video, we'll break down how this exchange exposes deeper structural tensions, reveals selective outrage, and challenges whether Congress is willing to scrutinize powerful systems, even when it's inconvenient.
Thank you so much. I move to strike the last words.
Gentlelady is recognized.
And so a couple of things. My not friend from Texas specifically cut me off by the time that I wanted to indicate to him a couple of things. One thing y'all have not said thus far as I can tell, is y'all may have amnesia about this mandate. You know, y'all kept talking about how President Trump was reelected and it was a mandate. And y'all aren't talking about the campaign promises. The campaign promise that he made. You see, when we had the Democrats out there, we weren't promising anything about the Epstein files. For all I know, our DOJ was invested in making sure that they could continue to reveal other people that should be held liable. Instead, it was your side that made this a campaign promise. So to now...
What just happened is a clear reframing of responsibility back onto those who demanded disclosure in the first place. This matters because democratic trust depends on leaders honoring their own commitments, not just criticizing others. If campaign promises evaporate the moment accountability becomes inconvenient, it signals that transparency isn't a principle. It's a tactic. And that leads to a dangerous precedent where secrecy wins and public trust loses.
Don't say that we are playing political games when we know that he actually ran on this is a farce. That's number one. Number two, everyone on this committee and everyone in Congress should have an issue with the fact that right now we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been transferred out of her housing in Florida down to somewhere that looks probably a little bit more like Mar-a-Lago in Texas, but now there are conversations about pardoning her. So I think that the American people should have full transparency about what took place when you're talking about someone who went in front of a grand jury and was found to have enough information to go forward and indict her, and then she was convicted, and then she was given 20 years, yet the president is in talks about potentially letting a convicted sex offender out. That's number two. Number three, I don't know if any of y'all took the time to sit down with any of these survivors, but let me be clear. These survivors have made it abundantly clear to...
This moment highlights a deeper institutional concern, whether political loyalty is overriding impartial justice. It matters because when the public sees protection for the influential instead of clarity for citizens, legitimacy erodes. If leaders appear more interested in managing optics than upholding equal accountability, it leads to cynicism and fractures confidence in the rule of law.
Us, that there was cooperation at all levels of government, and they are talking about fake immigration papers. And they're talking about fake modeling agencies. For all we know, there are people that are still embedded in our federal government that allowed for this to take place, that were profiting from this. So yes, this is relevant to what we're talking about. The fourth thing that I want to say is I'm tired of y'all cherry picking one horrible event, because that's what y'all do. Y'all find one terrible situation that took place, and then you say that person's name and you wear it out and you make it political. The reality is this. I got a few names for you if you want to start going through names, and you tell me which one of these names you've decided to do any type of legislation behind. We've got Virginia Guthrie. We've got Annie Farmer. We've got Maria Farmer. We've got Courtney Wild, Michelle Licata, Jenna Lisa Jones, Jennifer Araz, Sarah Ransom, Shantae Davies, Carolyn Adriano. And the reality is that it's our understanding that there may be close to 1,000 victims of Epstein, Maxwell, and others. So stop playing these games and acting like you care about one particular situation. You take a situation and then you exploit what has happened to not only that person, but you exploit those families and you make it a game. Stop just throwing a random dead person's name on something for your own political expediency. If you want to start talking about actually solving something, then maybe we should go to the other campaign promises, the ones that allegedly gave y'all a mandate. When he said he was going to lower prices on day one, yet that didn't happen. When he said that he was going to be ending wars on day one, yet that didn't happen. Where he said that he was going to save the American people, yet that didn't happen. Because as we know, in that big ugly bill that every single one of you voted for, except for Mr. Massey, because he seemingly is the only one that's got any sense over there, y'all voted for that bill. And the last time I checked, it's driving us further into debt while kicking people off of their health care, in addition to making sure that billionaires, which I would not be surprised if we start to roll out those names, and a number of those same billionaires, because these weren't they weren't $2 Johns. That's not what I got from the information. So stop telling us that you care. Show us that you care. Show those survivors that you care. Sign the daggone discharge petition, sit down and hear their stories, and then tell them to their faces that because your leader does not want to talk about this, that is who you have pledged your loyalty to and your fealty to, and you're not going to protect them, and you're not going to protect others.
Here, the conversation shifts from rhetoric to responsibility. This matters because democracy isn't strengthened by statements. It's strengthened by policy, votes, and action. When elected officials are challenged to sign, support, and legislate rather than posture, it exposes who truly prioritizes accountability and who benefits from endless debate with no resolution.
That are suffering right now and others that will suffer in the future, and I will yield.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It certainly appears that the only time the Democrats are concerned about human trafficking is when they think they can cast salacious and utterly unsubstantiated innuendos against the president. We remember 4 years of unsubstantiated innuendos about Russian collusion, all that turned out to be a lie. And this discussion is starting to rhyme. But here's what the Democrats seem not to give a fig about. That during the 4 years of their open border policies, they admitted an estimated 530,000 unaccompanied alien minors into this country. Now, that's about the entire population of the state of Wyoming. Some were gang members claiming to be minors, such as Kayla Hamilton's killer. Others were innocent children placed with poorly vetted sponsors and then abandoned and lost and forgotten. Now, Ms. Hageman has read the shocking revelations in the Inspector General's report. Are the Democrats horrified by this abandonment and endangerment of...
This response shows how quickly institutional debates can shift from oversight to political deflection. It matters because when accountability discussions become partisan shields, the core issue disappears. If every call for transparency is redirected into ideological combat, the system never answers the central question: will truth ever outrank power?
These children? Of course not. They spent 4 years defending, excusing, and ignoring these practices. In July 2021, concerned employees at HHS drafted a memo warning that, quote, trafficking was increasing, and complaining that the agency had become, quote, one that rewards individuals for making quick releases and not one that rewards individuals for preventing unsafe releases. According to press reports, Becerra told then ORR Director Cindy Huang that, quote, if she could not increase the number of discharges, he would find somebody who could. Huang resigned a month later. Now, instead of protecting these children until they could be returned safely home or until their rightful families could be located, the Democrats' HHS deliberately circumvented protocols that were designed to protect these children, and they abandoned them to poorly vetted sponsors in the United States. The House Judiciary Committee estimated last year that roughly 150,000 of these children have now disappeared. They've simply vanished into a dark underworld of sex and drug trafficking, forced labor, gang activity, and crime. Of course, many are not helpless children, but rather teenagers or adults posing as teenagers who themselves present a mortal danger to the public. Mr. Fry's already told the story of the tragic and entirely preventable murder of Kayla Hamilton. Maryland authorities admitted that he had gang tattoos, but the ranking member told us earlier today that we shouldn't even look for them. While the prime suspect in her murder, Martinez, was placed in a foster home with other children and enrolled in a local high school. He's since admitted to 4 murders, 2 rapes, and additional other crimes. Now, that could never have happened if Mr. Frye's bill had been law. What we do know is that in 2021, the Biden administration removed the requirement that ORR provide biographic and biometric data for all adult members of a sponsor's household to check for criminal histories. Once again, Mr. Frye's bill would forbid any administration from ever doing that again. Records produced by a whistleblower show that in 2021, HHS disregarded repeated warnings by a case manager about the MS-13 affiliation of one sponsor who was attempting to take custody of 2 unaccompanied alien children. Once again, Mr. Frye's bill would assure that that can never happen again. Now, instead of admitting the damage that these policies have done to hundreds of thousands of children that the Biden administration trafficked into this country and then abandoned, the Democrats seem to be doubling down. Even now, with the tragedy of these policies is becoming graphically clear, the Democrats still defend them, or at least distract from them. Well, next year, Americans will need to consider if they really want to return them to power and reopen America's borders to child trafficking and the most dangerous and violent criminal gangs and cartels on the planet. I'll leave that to them, and I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California.
Move to strike last word.
Gentleman's recognized.
This hearing wasn't just about heated exchanges. It exposed a larger problem: how often transparency becomes conditional, selective, and politically convenient. When institutions choose narrative control over honest disclosure, trust erodes and democratic integrity weakens. Accountability must exist beyond campaign talking points, and power must never outrank truth. If Congress cannot apply the same standard to everyone, then oversight becomes performance rather than duty. The stakes are simple. Either transparency is real, or it's theater. And the American people deserve to know which one it is. Support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.